All right. Both animals are angry. Who wins in a fight, a grizzly bear or a silverback gorilla? How am I supposed to know?
I actually looked this up because of Ethan and figuring where he was getting this information.
All right. For all you fans of this podcast, The Camel's Ego, I guess I was thinking about this earlier. Today will almost be like The Camel's Ago because you're Andrew
There you go.
and not Ethan. Ethan has the E. That's how I guess they got into that at one point.
I go.
Yeah, you're Ago or Ago. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. But this is the special. I guess I'm supposed to be looking this way. I guess,
Yeah.
right?
Am I looking at you or am I looking at the camera? Do they
Yeah,
want
I
to
don't
see
know.
our face or have a conversation?
I'm not
I feel like I
sure.
should be talking to you instead of the blank screen.
Yeah, we
staring
can go
at
back
me.
and forth, I guess.
And I'm going to pretend I'm a newscaster taking these fake notes while we
See, you're
converse the whole time.
You're gonna be good at this. I can tell already.
I'm going to fake it.
You're like a natural. I'm impressed already. But yeah, this is a special Father's Day episode of Camel's Ego. So obviously you're not seeing Garrett or Ethan. Garrett is my son. Maybe you could tell by looking at us. I don't know.
And Ethan is mine.
Yeah, Ethan and you guys look a lot alike. I think you've heard
I
that.
don't know if he's happy about that or sad about that. But yes, he does.
I mean, maybe if they keep doing this 30 years in the future, so they can look back and see, well, how much do we look at like our parents as we age?
Grandkids will be on podcasts.
Yeah, this is weird.
Yeah, so we've been suckered into taking over the show for a week with a mandatory list of questions that we have to
Yeah,
answer. But
we
we might go off that script. We'll
yeah,
see.
we were told they're fun.
Just
we'll see. All right, introduce yourself. I guess we should start with that. Make something up. Well, we already did start to introduce ourselves to a point, but when I saw this, I thought I want to explain to people kind of how we know each other. Obviously, it's through Garrett and Ethan going to school together.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you one time they were quite young, you bringing Ethan here to come over for like a play date.
Yep.
And they were kind of casual friends for a while, but then it wasn't until, was it preteen or teens, they kind of started getting to be better friends.
Yeah, right when they turned into teenagers, I think, and baseball became more popular, and they wanted to get into a lot of that, and we started coaching.
And they had the mutual
Fall,
friends.
summer,
Yeah.
spring.
But then, yeah, you specifically, I mean, it's through that meeting having you bring Ethan here, but then with the baseball, I was going to bring that up, like going to the league meetings, Little League, now it's Babe Ruth. It's not Little League
Right.
in our area, now it's Babe Ruth. But at that time, it was Little League, and then you were on the board, so I was eventually coaching.
Something else I got sucked into.
So, yeah, so I'd be at the meetings, and I saw you up front. So I kind of got to know you a little bit through that, and then ultimately we did coach together. And then you were the one who pushed for that, which was great. No complaints. That was fun.
That worked.
You know, we had a blast with that. At least I did. I guess you probably did too.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hoping. I don't-
Wouldn't have done it.
we had a lot of fun doing that, and then once that stage ended, you got a program through Burke's Thunder, more elite type players, and most of our kids just wanted to play for fun. So I came to you about, hey, can we start some kind of fun team, of friends,
Yep.
because they aged out of Little League. So we did that for a while. And then when you got out of that, I did an independent one, but you gave me a lot of tips and advice and
Impact.
impact. So I greatly appreciate that.
That was fun.
So we did that for several years. So it's been a blast being around these boys. Challenging, but a lot of before they could drive. I'm sure you
Back and forth.
Oh man, the driving.
Yeah.
You know, constantly. I used to get mad at Garrett. I don't know about you, but because I'm bad with this. Maybe most people probably aren't, but I am. I'm horrible with, like, I'm taking a lot of times, Ethan's house or your place or Ben Trexler, and then, like, we're driving 422 and we're talking, and, like, I missed the turn.
Right.
Then I got, like, furious. You're the one who wants to go here. Like, can't you, like, and don't blame me. So I was kind of a jerk about that sometimes.
Reminding him where to tell you.
Yeah, like 'cause my mind's
getting
on
lost in the conversation.
yeah, and then it's like,
Yeah.
why can't you tell me? I'm doing you. I used to get so mad, and, I'd kind of flip out. I shouldn't have done that, but
Especially when the turnoff and you miss it is another 5 miles down the road. You have to make a U-turn or whatever. So.
right. I don't know if do you ever get that way with them at times?
There's been times, yeah.
But you're pretty calm. I mean,
It's an act.
it's an act.
It boils down inside sometimes.
'Cause that's one regret I have. Like in the past, you were always so calm with the sports, and I don't think I was overly jerk, but Kim said I came across that way sometimes. But there's times I get, and I let my emotions get the best of me, and I kind of let it show. You never did that.
There was
So
the
I
one
always
time I remember. I think you had to pull me aside because there's a particular coach I didn't get along with, and he was acting up. So I took off my board shirt and my hat and said, "I'm gonna get you right here on the field, and we'll handle this." And it was just another ridiculous thing with somebody who will not be named. I'll tell Ethan later, and the boys, they'll remember it. But he always just rubbed me the wrong way with trying to get away with things and.
right.
But yeah, I just remember that was the angriest I ever got. I think until high school and watching my oldest play and dealing with families from other teams.
Right.
That was a lot nastier.
Yeah, there's a lot of drama, and
Yeah, the older they get, the more parents you have to deal with, and it was like.
and while I miss it, there's some things I don't miss, like other teams' coaches.
Yeah.
The cheating.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of cheating that goes on. A lot. Not just baseball. Any other rec, especially the rec level. It's like it's amazing. It's rec. It's fun. It's supposed
They
to be
try
fun.
to get away with whatever they can.
Right, and it's insane, and it's dog eat dog world out there.
I remember a couple impact games too where that happened, and the umpires were trying to intervene and make sure things were being done. Teams were walking away or didn't want to play anymore.
That could be a whole segment right there.
Yeah,
or
there's an hour
or
or two.
episode, sure.
Just baseball and rec league nonsense.
So that's I brought all that because that's kind of our history together.
Yeah,
I feel.
I miss it. I watch the Phillies almost every night and remember the days of watching the kids play, and I miss it. But
yeah, Braden's doing a softball thing through a church, so we've gone to
cool.
a few games. It's fun, but it's not quite the same, because you don't have a catcher, but no one's stealing. It's soft toss,
Right,
too,
right.
So I mean, there is some strategy to it, I guess. I'm not as familiar with softball.
I'm not as familiar with it now.
There's a little bit to it, but it's better than nothing. But I missed the hard.
Gives you a little bit of it, yeah.
Yes,
Little
they
taste.
play double headers on Sundays, so we've gone to a few, but. It was kind of surprising because he really got away from all that stuff, and then he got back into it a little bit. Like that's cool, but and
Find their way back.
Garrett plays a lot of pickup basketball games at the park, or
right. They're always up to something.
Yeah, so
they're still staying active.
They're staying active.
Just miss that group setting with all the families and cheering them on.
And they have a ton of mutual friends, which I guess most people watching this realize. Because little by little, they're doing these the third hump podcast that they're doing.
All the friends are the people that make up the fan base of the podcast.
Yeah, you're probably right.
That are turning this off when they see two old guys taking over.
Yeah, that's true. They might be like, all right, this is boring.
Or taking screen caps and editing it into silly nonsense that they'll be using.
All right. I guess we went down memory lane enough for now. So
we always circle back to.
Yeah, we can always circle back. Question of the day says, if you could invite any 3 people, dead or alive, to dinner, who would you choose? Now they have here Jesus excluded. He's the obvious pick. All right. And I was saying earlier, I don't like these kind of questions because it's such a broad, See, they're young, so they haven't probably lost too many people. Someone our age most likely lost, because not both, I'm wrong there. My dad passed away, back in 2016. So, you could go that route and be like, all right, but most people don't want to hear that. That's boring to people.
It's funny. When I saw this question, I was thinking, too, I'm like, what would they say?
Yeah.
They had Jesus there as the obvious pick. So I'm like, well, obvious to them. But what else was obvious to them? Are they picking athletes or superstars? Like you
Right.
said, they don't have, thankfully, that much loss yet. And initially, I was looking at it like, well, my mother, my father-in-law, and then I'm like, well, that's going to take us down a depressing road
Right.
if we.
Right.
And you were thinking along the same lines, so I was like, I'll just try and think of something more
So I think
pop culture-y
so
or
you're in agreement. We should just avoid, even though realistically that's who we would pick because,
exactly.
and that's a lesson I think for the kids too. Like, and we all been there. I know hey, when I was young, there's times I didn't always get along with my parents, and you wanted to keep your distance and you shy away. But that's a natural thing. You grow up doing that, I think, to a point.
Well,
But
nowadays, boys, because you guys are always off on your own, the three people should be all of you actually staying home for dinner instead of running out all the time. But you'll learn eventually. So no, I went the pop culture route because I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, well, we could get sad and mention
yeah,
the people we really want to spend time with, or one more dinner or whatnot. But I'm like, I won't bring the show
right.
down.
But even so, it's such a vast. I don't know. I'd rather have it more like a certain century or like you said, all right, maybe a celebrity or pop culture, because there's
Yeah,
so
they
many.
opened it wide open
It's
for
too
this.
wide, in my opinion. It's mind blowing. Like, how do you narrow it down to three?
I was literally like writing names down in this and
And
scratching them off
and for me personally, I mean, yeah, it'd be nice to meet different people. I get all that, but I'm not a big celebrity person. I don't get into celebrity like some people do. you know, I don't put a lot of stock in it or get too worked up over. I have to get this person's signature or meet them or
right.
shake their hand. I value the everyday man, I guess,
Exactly.
or people in my circle, or your family and friends, and just like on Seinfeld, what made Seinfeld was yeah, the characters were neat and everything, but I don't even want to call them everyday people, but some of the weirdos they met, and and it made the
Yeah, it was
show.
just everyday
And you
life
see that you're around that
wherever
all the
you go.
time. You run into these people have a. I mean, recently me and kid did some shopping, and something was acting up with my phone. Went into this T-Mobile, and this that we normally wouldn't go into, but I was near. Why don't we stop in? Fortunately, nobody was there. He was like out there. This guy, he was making us laugh. Just how he presented himself, and
Right, right.
it's like Seinfeld episode, So I guess I look at it as I run into people kind of like that, like they don't have to be some big name comedian or
And that probably would be more interesting. Take three random people you've never met or don't know each other and just go to dinner with them and
yeah,
see how everybody gets along. Will you sit quietly for a couple hours and just eat, or will people end up getting along by the end of the night?
right.
It's a good
So
way to cheat the
so
question,
yeah,
too.
I'm just not the big. I mean, I thought of this too. It's so tough because different people I admire or I like their work, but it doesn't mean I would like them like to sit and eat dinner. I guess I'd know then, but just because I like their work and what they're in, they could be totally different. You hear that all the time.
Yeah, and when you
Same with
talk about like
actors.
athletes and
Yeah,
celebrities, you're like, oh, I like that. They seem cool. I'd love to meet this guy, that guy, and then they turn out to be a complete jerk, or
right.
like, oh no,
Because
this
you
is
hear
gonna
that
be
about a lot of them.
awkward.
I mean, some have good reputations and other ones don't. So it's such a challenge to. Well, who wants to go first? Should we do for some of these books? Well, there's a draft coming up later. That's rock paper scissors. I guess this one doesn't really matter who goes first because we're gonna have different people.
Exactly, unless they're the same, which would be
Yeah,
interesting.
that would be interesting. But I could almost guess some of yours. I think.
We'll see.
I think I could because I know a little bit about you.
I tried to do it as almost when I got frustrated because I wasn't sure which direction to take it. I just went for a theme.
All right. So yours are
Instead of
consistent with each other, all
I
three.
think so. I think so.
All right. So you want to
That'll be up for Ethan or whoever to
you want to
debate
name
when
all
they
three or
watch
just
it.
name one?
No, I'll do all three.
All
I
three.
picked.
Okay.
I went with George Lucas, Stan Lee, and Stephen King. Three writers, three creators. Lucas with Star Wars, Lee with Marvel, and all the heroes, and Stephen King, obviously. I don't know. I mean, in interviews, the only one who seems to be ever peppy used to be Stan Lee when he would talk. George Lucas looked kind of shy, and Stephen King doesn't seem to like to talk about. So I don't know in a conversation how interesting it would be. I think two of them would probably be quiet, but they've created a lot of characters and are known for their writing and imagination. So I figured, if anything, at least they'd be good at telling stories for an hour or
Right.
two. So that's why I settled on
You'd have a
those
good
three.
time, no doubt.
Hopefully, again, somebody could just come up and be like, "I heard horrible stories about Stephen King." So, so I just figured at the very least, those three would be entertaining
All right.
for a certain amount.
Well, none of those surprised me. I did get the Stan Lee one. That's what I would have said first, Stan Lee. And now the other ones don't surprise me either, but I guess I just wasn't thinking along those lines. But the Stan Lee, I definitely
Yeah,
that definitely came out of my mind. I was like, who would Andrew pick?
predictable.
And I was like, it's got to be Stan Lee, or if not, he's would think, oh, I didn't think of that. I think, yeah, but I think he has to think of it because I know you're into the comics and the superhero stuff big time. I have an appreciation for it. I'm not quite on the level of as what you are. My thing with that was always my interest in that was more like growing up watching like the reruns of the Batman
Right, on the TV
series.
channel.
Adam West, now he's one they say was a jerk. You heard
Which
that?
is sad because I used to love that show too. And
Yeah,
I'm
they
like,
say he could be. That's the reputation.
a jerk,
he
a
has.
womanizer.
Yeah.
And now
Unfortunately,
your
'cause-
podcast will get sued for libel.
Because
guys.
it was a little campy, that thing, I guess, but
Yeah.
I enjoyed it as a kid.
Yeah, it was fun. I loved that show as a kid.
Yeah, I loved
I
it
still
too.
like the show.
Yeah, so that was disappointing to hear that he supposedly was like that. I guess.
Yeah, don't ever meet your heroes was the lesson they say, right?
So I heard something recently. I guess that he was just someone met him and they held the door open for him at some store, and he was like, and he kind of reamed him out or said something ugly to him, like, "Just be nice and hold the door for the guy."
Yeah, you
And
look
he-
on
It's like, wow.
the internet. There's always this
So-
horrible story to do
Yeah.
with any celebrity. I'm like,
How much that's true or not, we don't know. But so there are your three: Stephen King, George Lucas. I never got into the Star Wars thing. I don't know why. I just never really did. Don't know a ton about that. And I'm not a horror guy like you. I know you're into horror.
always trying
Hey.
to find a
I figured there'd
decent
be,
horror
there'd be
movie.
something with the horror because I know you do that thing in October. where you
October.
watch-
Yeah, I told Ethan the list is already being made.
Yeah, you watched what, 31 movies.
Yep. Movie a
each
day,
Yeah,
or
movie a day.
average a movie a
So
day.
I figured something with that you would probably do some horror, but I just didn't think of Stephen King. But you're doing.
Yeah, I was thinking comedians. I'm like, oh, you do great comedians. It'd be fun. They'd entertain. But again, just like these guys, is there a story that they're a jerk or something like that?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you credit. You kept like a theme, and I wish that's why this was just like to me. This is tough because there's just so many things, and so one for me was Charles Schultz because I'm into the Peanuts comic
Yeah,
strip.
yeah.
I collect that stuff for pretty many years. I don't buy as much anymore, but occasionally I still do. Something pops up at a good price or whatever, but I don't look to spend a ton of money on it. But even there, I mean, I like this comic strip. What would we talk about? I mean, he's passed now, but I don't know. That's just someone I thought, all right, it would be, you hear good things about him too.
Yeah.
It was always, that's the thing. Like, we're talking about some of them you don't, because as far as actors, I always admire. We talk about the superhero thing. Guess you call him a superhero. Some people would. Incredible Hulk.
Mhm.
I always liked that Bill Bixby as an actor.
Oh, yeah.
I loved him in that series. That lonely man theme at the end when
Oh,
he
yeah.
walks away. I
The
loved that
just-
as a kid. I still sometimes on my phone I'll look it up on YouTube and I'll listen to it.
Oh, yeah.
I love that piano
The piano.
solo. It's awesome.
That's that little, I guess, yeah, theme song, whatever you call it. It's perfectly indicative of the
Yeah.
show and the meaning of the show.
I always
and,
felt so bad for the guy.
Yeah.
But that's the character. I don't know.
Yeah, every week he had to go somewhere
But
else.
yeah,
he
you
could
felt-
never settle down.
because he was always misunderstood and I always thought I'm sort of misunderstood.
Hmm.
My one job, I was a teacher. One lady told me that. I worked at the Ames. It was my second job. I worked at Ames, and this lady, she helped set up stores, and she was like so rude. But eventually she let her guard down, and she was nice, got along with me. And then as I have to leave, she was up, leaving. As you could see, it got to her. Now you get to know these people, now I have to leave. And I think that's why she was a little bit that way. Like had her guard up initially, but then she said to me, like, you're a misunderstood person. And it always stuck with me. Because I'm thinking, yeah, you kind of treated me like crap initially, but eventually she came around. She was nice to me. We got along.
Right.
She was an adult. I was kind of a kid yet. I was 17. So then I guess relating that to Bill Bixby's character. So it was always that connection I felt with me and him. I related to him.
Makes sense.
because not on obviously I wasn't turning into the Hawk.
Right, but you
That wasn't
the
my
isolation and
yeah.
not being
I've never
understood.
been a real popular guy, you know. So I don't know. I he's someone, but I don't have him on my list. So maybe I shouldn't be talking about. But I might yet because I'm limited for a third here. Um, I don't know if I even really made my mind on that. It's so tough because he says about Jesus, and I thought, should I pick Bible characters? you know, I would like to meet 18th century preacher Charles Haddon Spurgeon. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Mm-mm.
Charles Spurgeon, big in Christian circles. A lot of people refer to him as the Prince of Preachers. I have a lot of commentary books, and he's quoted in a lot of them.
Oh, okay.
So it would be interesting because he lived in the 1800s. It'd be interesting to see how what he
Whole
thinks of
different perception.
what. Yeah, it would be neat to meet him. Because you read his writings. I mean, it's very good. He was used to God mightily. Had a passion for things of God, the Bible. He's quoted today immensely in Christian circles and different writings, people's sermons. If you're preparing a sermon, people quote him like crazy. It's almost like you're quoting something out of the Bible. That's
He
how
would be
people.
completely shocked at dinner right now, seeing the world
Oh, I'm sure he would be, but it'd still be interesting to talk to somebody
and
like
his
that.
perspective.
Yeah, it would be awesome. So he would have to be on that list, I believe. Then, like I said, do you go? This is tough for me because then do you go Bible? I was thinking, do you go someone in the Bible? Who do you pick? And there's so many outside of Christ because we can't use him in this Old Testament, New Testament things. You should pick someone who one of his apostles that walked with him, got to see the miracles. That
You
would
found a loophole in their rule.
yeah. So I don't know, but then that's tough too. I mean, Peter, he walked on water, took his eyes off Christ, then he sank. It'd be so neat. Would you go Adam, the first? I'd almost have to go Adam, I think. If we're going to, because he was the first human
You
being.
go way back.
He was the first human being, first great human being. So it would be awesome to get his. They're in that paradise. Then he sins. And then he has to leave paradise. So he can explain what was paradise like. And
What was it like before? And look at your progeny.
yeah, so none of us have been on that side of it. He was. So I guess I had to pick one from the Bible. And like I said, it's just so tough. I wish you had all right, name 3 from the Bible or 3 from this, but they don't. So
They tried to make it difficult.
you did a better
but that's
job
good.
than me keeping it kind of in a certain sphere or whatever you want to say.
Oh, that's because when he gave me this list, I'm just looking, I'm like writing things down and jotting notes, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, that's too vague. That's too wild. And I
Right.
moved away from the real people, and then I'm like, I was thinking of with Jesus. I'm like, well, should I do other religious characters just to make them mad? So
And then the actors, I always liked Michael Landon too, but they say he could be a little funny at times.
I don't want to know anymore if
People-
if
people-
that's true. I like
Well,
my
I don't-
ignorance.
Maybe not as bad as Adam West, but there's certain things they say give you a little bit of an ego or whatever. Because in a lot of certain episodes, anytime he could have a shirt off, he did. He kind of look a certain way, so a little vain, I
Yeah,
guess.
but from Bonanza to Prairie to Highway
Yeah,
to
but
Heaven.
people really respect his work, and he was a good actor,
Mm-hmm.
so I respect his work. Something about him it just seemed to come naturally.
Yeah, he's always that father figure. Well, that's how I associated Bonanza was before my time. I only saw it in reruns, but
But he was
our
good,
generation, everybody knows Little House.
yeah, good at pulling on the heartstrings.
Yeah.
I actually just recently, because it came a suggestion, I joined this on Facebook, this page of what's it called, Little House on the Prairie Reunion or something. It's called. I'm not sure who started, but I think it might be the woman who played Nellie Olson, because
Oh, okay.
supposedly she's part of that, and she'll have comments on there once in a while. This person claims they're her anyway. I think they are.
Could be, could not.
I
yeah.
think it is, but how do I really know?
Right.
But seems to be the case. Sometimes people will directly ask her questions, and she will answer them from time to time. It seems legit to me. Are we still recording? I guess.
Yours is not recording. Yours stopped. It says iPhone storage full. I don't know if that's Ethan's phone or Garrett's phone.
All right, so we got in the 3 people we each would like to meet that are alive. So the next would be, what did a typical Friday night look like when you were 17 years old? So I think they mean specifically for us. What would our night, not just the air and the current technology, or lack
That
thereof.
would be 1990 for me. There's nothing going on in 1990.
Bland world compared to today, I think.
I was just starting to drive. I didn't get my license at 16 right away. I waited a little bit. Um, I think I was working on Friday nights. I worked as a security guard. It was one of my first job. So I was probably working a lot. Either that or going to the movies. That's
Yeah.
literally what we did. Hung out with friends, went to the movies. There was nothing else for us to do down there.
Movie buff back then
Yeah,
already.
yeah. But trying to. Sorry, guys. 17 and 1990 wasn't all that.
But that would be typical of a kid at that period and that age. I mean, going to movies, working. A lot of kids, they don't want to work, but mine's similar as far as the working. I got my license at 17 as well. My first job at 17. Probably didn't work every Friday, but there's a good chance I was working some. If I wasn't working, even when I got done work, this would probably sound weird to a lot of people, but I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. They lived in Boyertown, so I went there a lot and spent like weekends there. There was a younger kid in the area that I hung out with from time to time, but I spent time with them a lot. And at that, I was thinking about this earlier. In that particular period as well, when I was 17, my grandmother came from a big family. I think she was one of 13, I think it was. And while I knew some of her siblings, some were local. What ended up happening is, and she did this, I guess, for many many years, took in different people. But what ended up happening is her one older sister got Alzheimer's, so she came to live with my grandmother.
Oh,
So that was even more for me anyway. Now, this may sound weird to people listening. For me, that was more of an incentive to go because I always had, especially at a young age, had a connection with older people.
uh,
So I liked being around, even though she was pretty good for the most part, but she could be temperamental and get upset.
right.
And she also had an adult child, but she had Down syndrome. So my grandmother took both of them in because someone had to care for him
Wow.
because she was starting to walk off and want,
Yeah.
like Alzheimer's people with Alzheimer's do from time to time.
Hmm.
So someone had to take care of her. My grandmother didn't work a regular job. She babysat and did that sort of stuff, and she used to sell Avon. But so I would go there a lot. And I know that sounds weird to people. Like, what 17-year-old does that? I did. I did, to the point that her one son, who I see he's out of state, but he'll come up here once in a while. He still thinks like I should have gotten into that kind of work, like with the elderly or something.
Social work or
Yeah, or
something.
something,
Or
because
like
like how he
home
saw how
care.
he liked that, and I guess he always had a respect for me because how I connected with his mother, and he liked
Right.
that I spent that time with her and was kind to her. Probably to some people that's, like I said, real strange. So Friday night for me was probably either working, going to my grandparents, or possibly I did have these two good friends that lived in Exeter. I went to school with Matt and Joey. Unfortunately, they both have passed at a young age. Joey had complications with diabetes. Matt ended up getting Alzheimer's, Alzheimer's of the brain,
He got
MS.
Alzheimer's.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's like a pun, isn't there, or something ironic? With the
Right.
brain. But yeah, Matt ended up getting MS really bad. So he passed a few years ago now already. So unfortunately, they're both gone. But I'd spend some time with them, like you said, maybe movies, going to football game at Exeter, we went to
Right.
that kind of stuff. But probably more likely at my grandparents',
Yeah.
honestly.
See, guys, 17 back in there was not.
But yeah, I didn't even have allowed that. And I wish they would have said more like 18, because that's when I met Kim. So it would have been probably a little
Yeah,
more
18,
interesting.
19, 20, a
Yeah.
little bit more interesting.
Yeah, but
I
17.
don't know why they went back to 17. They're in their 20s, so
Yeah, I'm not sure.
they were looking for some sort of dirt, but they're not getting it. They're not getting it with this question, so we can
All right.
move on.
Move on. Next one. What was the most memorable Halloween costume you wore as a kid?
Mine wasn't as a child. Mine was as a grown adult. And Ethan or Garrett can insert the picture of my greatest Halloween costume when they do the edits here, as the Wolfman homemade costume. It's lovely. Disturbs the entire family. If I could find it, I'll show Matt and get his live reaction before this is done. But no, as a kid, again, our costumes if unless they were made by our parents, it was all these little plastic boxes with the name of the character written on it. So if you were Spider-Man, you'd have the plastic half mask,
With the
and
rubber
then
band that goes around the
yeah,
back.
and on your chest it would have the word Spider-Man written across it, or Darth Vader, or Batman, or whatever. I guess licensing or whatever that was, but yeah, it was. They were not the
They
best
come in those
costumes.
boxes with the cellophane plastic over it. You could see
Exactly.
in.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah. So I mean, they're all pretty much the same type of costume. I don't remember ever making one or having a homemade one, so it was pretty much those plastic ones. So either Spider-Man or, again, I did the werewolf thing, but that was a plastic costume. It wasn't until I was in my adulthood that I created the great live werewolf. Can show Matt.
Oh wow, that isn't what I was expecting.
showing Matt the adult werewolf
Wow.
costume that creeped and disgusted everybody who came across me that night as the fur started dripping all over the
But you had
place
fun
and
with it, didn't you?
yeah, it was disgusting.
Or-
Yeah.
For me as a kid, I was thinking about this. For me, the most memorable, I don't know if it was the best costume, but memorable because, like you said, by creating your own, I have to ask my mom. I don't remember how we exactly got it. If she bought it or I thought someone sewed it together. I think my grandmother would have because she could sew. I'm assuming she did it, but just made like a almost like a jumpsuit type thing for me to fit into. The leg, all one, legs, the top, long sleeves. It was just white. And then I had a gorilla mask, and I had to color in the. I guess they would give me something to do, maybe to leave them alone. I don't know.
Yeah.
I had to color
Busy
that.
work.
I had to color that all with crayon to make it look like a gorilla. And I had used, or should have used a black crayon, I guess, but I used brown.
I thought you were going Evil Knievel or Elvis with the white jumpsuit. The gorilla
No,
mask
it didn't stay white.
threw me off.
Why they didn't just? All right, they made dyed cloth back then. I mean, this wasn't that many years ago. Why not just make it out of something that would look like that? But no, they made it out of white cloth, so I had to color it in.
Colored.
So I guess the point was, and I'm sure I went through a lot of crayons.
It was a craft as well as a costume.
Yeah, so well, this will give me something to do. I can color it in.
Burn some energy for the candy.
So that's memorable to me because I remember doing that. To the point, I thinking about it, this is before we had to wear seatbelts, and most people didn't think nothing of it. We had a station wagon. I remember getting picked up from my grandparents, and I would work on that in the back of the station wagon. I had the crayon, have them coloring as my mom was driving. We used to ride in the back of the wagon a lot.
Yeah, seatbelts were always optional.
Right.
Back then,
To
it
the point, I
seemed.
remember one time there was a cop behind us, and me and my brother, we were pretending that we were shooting the cop with our hand. And
I can't do that now.
yeah, he didn't seem to care. We didn't
Yeah.
get pulled over or anything. But now they'd see, but you get pulled over just because you're not in a seatbelt.
Yeah. The seatbelt back then was my mother or father's arm reaching out to hold me in, thinking that they would be able to withstand the G-forces
Yeah.
of a
We're a different
car
world
coming
for
in.
sure.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that's my most memorable as adult. Like you're saying, that's not as one time me and Kim, it was before we had the kids. Yeah, we went as I did the Scarecrow and she did Dorothy, and I put a lot of work into that Scarecrow. I don't know. I'm sure we have a picture somewhere, but so I was kind of proud. I was proud of that costume. I thought it looked pretty good. We put a lot of effort into that, so it was pretty cool. All right.
Yeah, Halloween's fun at all ages.
Yeah, it can be a blast. It takes some effort though, and
yeah.
creativity.
Mm-hmm.
It's our chance as adult. You know, you can be creative as an adult.
Yeah.
Dad debates is the next section. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yeah, we talked a little
talked
bit about
about, but-
before our technical
Yeah,
difficulties
we had a
with
technical
their phones.
difficulty there, which people won't be made of.
I think we both said,
because we told you, but
for the most part, yes. I think we agreed.
we agree. Yeah, that people don't.
Between two pieces of bread or
Yeah.
encased in bread.
People overthink it and they like to say, well, no, because it's a hot dog. Well, we both agree, so we'll move on quickly because we are taking quite a bit of time on some of these. All right, both animals are angry. Who wins in a fight, a grizzly bear or a silverback gorilla? How am I supposed to know?
I actually looked this up because of Ethan and figuring where he was getting this information from. It came up with all those questions. So I was going to try and read all of these beforehand, but I didn't have to do that much
I mean,
research.
sure. I guess there's a technical answer here that Odds are, unless one's old and one's young,
It
or different,
looked like
or sickly,
it looked like the Grizzly
would
was
win.
the undisputed winner,
Okay.
because it's more angry. It's more prone to that violent behavior than a silverback. A silverback, I guess, is strong, like muscular wise,
Right. But it doesn't have the bear claws.
right, and it doesn't have the aggression that a grizzly would have
So grizzly
unless
has the
it's
claws that
challenged.
can bite, powerful jaws. I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, I saw what was it, Revenant or whatever, the movie where the guy's beaten half to death by the grizzly bear.
Well, I would have
Leo,
picked
but
grizzly simply because I remember as a kid. You're in the movie buff, so maybe you know, but I don't know if this was a made for TV movie. I don't remember the name of it, but it'd be on TV from time to time, and we only had growing up like the regular channels,
yeah, 3610.
basically. We didn't have cable, and I don't know what the name of this movie. I wish I know because as a kid we really enjoyed it. Now maybe going back and look at it now, we think this is lame. I don't know, but there was some kind of grizzly movie that would come on TV from time to time, and was in the wind, and it was killing all kinds. And ultimately, they do kill it,
Well, I know there were horror movies from the 70s that were like the Grizzly or the
but it was
Grizzly
allowed to be on
Returns and
TV
stuff.
back then when I was a kid.
They probably edited it up or
So
chopped it
maybe
up or something.
I don't know the name of it, but we always enjoyed it, and we watch it from time to time. So I would have went Grizzly simply based on that. That I don't ever remember seeing a movie based on a silverback gorilla
No.
killing people. So I would have definitely went Grizzly, just simply based on that.
Yeah.
All right, I guess this next one could get interesting. If given the option, would you rather live in a world with or without the internet? And we are unique to our kids because we lived in both.
We lived in
basically.
both,
I mean,
and then-
technically, the internet was
yeah.
probably around or in the infant stages, maybe.
I started using it, I think, as a late teenager, like right into college.
All right, so you started before me then, for sure. I was trying to think about it. I think I'm probably I'm 50 now. I've probably had about half my life with and half without.
I remember doing the DOS enter plus in high school computer/typing class, but internet access not until AOL started mailing you the disc in the mail. Yeah.
I can't do it. What's that weird noise? Remember, you're like,
Like,
you'll do better
and
than
then
me.
do
Probably.
like
As you're signing on,
yeah,
and other people couldn't use the phone.
right. Unlike now,
Everybody has cell phones, so who
it
would
was
care?
your phone line, your grounded phone line was taken up, and also got long distance charges, which my parents were like, "Why is the phone bill hundreds of dollars?" And I'm like, "Shouldn't be." It's like every time you're signed in online, it was ringing a long distance charge.
Yeah,
Unless you had
it's
that little
insane. It's much better
free
today.
pass for AOL or whatever, but
So
I'm of both minds with that. I know a lot of people would rather live without it for obvious reasons, and social media and dangerous social media being dangerous for younger people, and talking about the psychological issues that kids have now that they didn't have before, which could be
Right.
a whole other show because of now you don't just get bullied in school, the bullying takes you
follows
back.
you home. Yeah.
Now you don't just hear stories about, oh, my dad got a new car, or my parents got a nice new TV. Now you're inundated with hundreds and thousands of people who have better things than you and creating jealousy. So on that facet, I mean, I think it's worse in doing damage. But I met my wife via the internet, so
Yeah,
I can't.
I thought of
I
that. Yeah, I
cannot
heard that
ever
story.
say live in a world, because if I lived in a world without that, there'd be no podcast or Ethan or Liam or Evan.
Yeah, what would your life be like now? You can make a movie of
exactly.
that, right?
And I've done a lot of work with the internet. That's how I got a lot of jobs. Indeed.com and all that stuff. And most of my jobs involved using recruiting sites and things like that. So, I mean, for me, it was easier, but I used it, I guess, more for its design purpose than to show off. And I didn't have it when I was younger, so I didn't have to really worry about, like, oh, my friends are doing this. I don't know.
Right.
I mean,
It wasn't a competition.
yeah, and I when I was a kid, I never really cared anyway. Like, I didn't care if my kids or my friends had a better house or newer car. Like, liked what I had, so it wasn't.
You were content.
Yeah, it was never an issue. And then when I was older, I had my own money, and if I wanted something, I'd buy it or save it. So, but now it's like you see anything you could want, it's out there, and I think it affects them
The
more.
temptation's
It
right.
definitely says it
Yeah.
affects them more with depression and anxiety and things like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of negatives as far as like you said, it's in outright in your own home, and on your phone. I mean, I remember before I had internet on my phone, and I kind of thought, "What's good? I don't have it on my phone because I spend enough time on the internet when I am home, so I don't really need to take it with me."
Mm-hmm.
But now, basically, everybody has it on your phone, and I do too. So it's like, and it is nice. I'm at work or my lunch break or something. Because I work at a very very small place. There's only three of us there. It's very tiny. So I take lunch. I'm in there by myself. So it's
Right.
nice to have that. I can scroll, read articles, whatever. It's neat, but
You get caught up on everything.
yeah. So it's something to
And
do.
it's instant news. It's instant. You
Right.
don't have to wait till 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock news or the newspaper the next day to find out what happened. Like we'll have a warning. There's a Exeter road closed for this or that, and I've made traffic decisions based on
Right.
updates there. Or the other day when the Canadian smoke was affecting everything, and like, oh, game's going to be canceled tonight, and this thing at school is going to be canceled, and this is going to be canceled. So
I mean, just look how it affected the whole snow day thing.
yeah,
When we were kids, you had like listen to the radio, or eventually they started putting it on TV, but scroll on the bottom. Now, I remember going out to the bus and like we were waiting there because years ago, I mean,
and it never came.
they didn't
You just-
cancel as much as they do now.
No,
There'd be snow there, and then like someone drive, hey, and they would tell, hey, school was canceled, or 2 hour delay. You're waiting out here for nothing, So if your parents missed it on the radio, it wasn't
you're
like now
waiting
the,
and
the
you're
school just
stuck.
school just contacts you. But I was thinking about this. For me, initially I had a very positive experience with the internet because when we first got it, I think it was 1998. When we first got our own computer and got on the internet, and I collected things, like I said, and I went into some different, I don't know if they were chat rooms or different things. I didn't really know anything about eBay at that time. I might have heard of it, but I didn't give it much credence, or I just didn't. I don't know. I should have probably went on that initially, and I didn't for whatever dumb reason. I was doing other searches and coming across different people selling things here or there, and I might have bought a thing or two. And I talked to people, chatting. Well, do you have this? Do you have more of it? And they said, well, try eBay. And I was like, and they bragged it up. Well, try eBay. They have like everything. I was like,
Right.
yeah. I was like, yeah, right. In my mind, I was like, all right, or whatever. I like didn't believe it. Now I was obviously wrong. So I go on eBay and I just blew my mind
Yeah,
how much stuff that I didn't even know existed. Like you collect stuff. I remember. So it's pros and cons because years ago you would travel to places. So that was the experience too. I went with my dad because he was an avid collector of met too many things. But we would go once in a while. But that takes time. And how often can you do it? It's travel expense, but it was the spending time together in the car.
yeah, it was fun doing stuff like that.
Yeah,
you
so
couldn't order it online. You didn't even know necessarily if it would be there. It was the thrill of the hunt and
right,
going out. Is it going to be there? Is it not? Now you can get like a ping on your phone, like this item's in stock.
available. Yeah,
I know people that collect toys now that they look up the SKU numbers, the skis, so they know when they're checked in at the Target. So they're like,
oh yeah,
this box was checked in at Target and Exeter at 8 o'clock, and they're going to go on display. So the collectors
it's
and the hunters,
amazing.
and I'm like, that's cool, but I also like just let's go to Target at 6 a.m.
It's like
every
having a
day.
fish finder.
And yeah, exactly.
But the negative of going, yeah, it was great to go with my dad. We did that, and it's time I'll always remember. But at the same time, you had to sort of almost get lucky that you're right time because you went this day. Well, next week that vendor could have brought the item in you wanted. When now you're gone, you might have back there till 6 months later.
Yeah, most of the time you get unlucky. So
Yeah,
it was
most times
more,
you come up sort of empty.
it's
You
where
know,
it's the journey, not the destination, sort of thing. You get it was the trip and being together and spending that time together more than coming back with the item. Now, like you say, you go on eBay. When I'm on eBay, it's not. I don't buy a lot on there. Not like the kids do as much. But I'll know, like, if I'm looking for something, I'm like, oh, I remember this when I was a kid. And then an hour later, because one item, it's like more like this, and you look at this, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that, and you're just in the like nostalgia wave
Yeah,
for
it's
hours.
cool
I'm
for
like, I
that.
just wasted 2 hours looking at things I'll never buy just because I remember having them when I was like 10. Because yet literally you could type in anything and somebody's selling it.
But when we first discovered it, and like I said, I collect the Peanut Skin Snoopy stuff. Different things I knew existed, but I went on there. It was like, wow, so many cool items I never knew. So that would open up a whole new world. Like, this is awesome. Of course, then you start spending more money.
Right.
But I had to show my dad this with, and he loved it. And it just blew his mind too. Like all this stuff, because he knew about a lot of different things, but this just opened up like a whole new world. And there's pros and cons with that, because he wasn't. Not that I was computer savvy. I'm still not that savvy. I'm more of an internet surfer. He was horrible with it. So like, we got to spend time together. And the beginning, I didn't like.
As
It was
he's helping.
I had to do it all. I had to do the searches. I had to type. He'd sit and after a while, I was like, all right, you got to start. Like, I'd have to scroll everything. I mean, everything, Andrew. I had to do it all. He would just tell me, put in this.
He would
put
just sit and watch.
and he'd be like, scroll. Oh, no, click on that. No. Go up in the description. What is this? It was like, got to be too. I mean, it was nice in a way, but it was like, this is too much. But one memory I do have from it was like, then because he was a pretty quiet guy, so he opened up a little more, and what certain items he was looking for, then he started talking a little about why he got an interest in that item. Because the one time we went out to eat afterwards, and so that was a good memory. That because typically he didn't open up like that, so he
Right.
kind of explained the history of the item, why he thought it was neat.
It was a good bonding time.
Yeah, so that did help create that. And where if the internet didn't exist, I wouldn't have had that.
Yeah.
So it is pros and cons. But eventually he started learned to do it himself, and then he went off on his own and did go to the library. At one point he's come over to our place a lot, and then eventually he's just started going to the library, I think, and doing it. But for him, it probably wasn't the best, because I know he spent quite a bit of money on stuff. We kept buying. He loved it. But for me, I think, we're giving a lot of pros and cons. The answer would, I'd rather live with it, I think. Myself, of course, like I said, like anything, just like prior to when we were recording, I think we said about TV. Some people used to say the same thing about TV. But that sometimes they probably would be better off because you sit in front of a TV, and just like internet, hours can go by, and
Yeah.
you could have been
Especially now, binge watching and all that stuff.
yeah,
A streaming
yeah.
service, you can get caught up very easily.
So it's a similar thing, but I like it for research. There's so much information at your fingertips. Even like I preach twice a month. Typically, I have a ton of commentaries that I continue to pick up, which Kim probably wishes I didn't, but I keep picking them up. But even so, there's some good information you get even online. There's some websites that I use, some more than others, but it's just amazing what's there at your. Of course, then there's the bad that's there too, and the temptations. There's the online gambling, and there's just so much.
There's
stuff.
online everything. Yeah.
There's porn. I mean, that people have that addiction. It's just it's right there. It's hard for them to, because it's just right there.
Anybody could get anything with a click.
It's not like years ago had to go and buy a Playboy. Now that took more effort. You had to actually go. You could maybe avoid it a little. Now it's like you're using your phone, and
The brown paper bag at the 7-Eleven or wherever. I don't even know if the 7-Elevens are coming back, but
so yeah, it's pros and cons, but I'd rather have it myself.
yeah, overall definitely.
Overall. All right, I guess we'll move on. Does a straw have one or two holes? These just like some of these again.
This was a surprise question they added at the last minute. I don't know. I say one hole.
I can see both interpretations. I would say one continuous hole. I mean, yeah, it's two ends, but does two ends make two holes? I mean, to me, it's like, who cares? It's just like a foolish question.
What other questions do they have? We'll replace them on the great debating things. I just brought up other questions.
We have to help them out here because our questions
Are school uniforms necessary?
Oh yeah,
that's one of them.
That's
on
a
there.
good one. Yeah, I have mixed feelings on that. You want to talk about that one or no?
They'll hate it, but I think they should have a uniform. I had uniforms in school, and they were ugly as anything. But it goes back to a little bit on the social media thing and being jealous.
But you're being judged on too.
If you're all wearing, and there would always be somebody that would figure out like, okay, if the style is blue pants and a white shirt and a blue tie, somebody's going to get the polo shirt and the
Mm-hmm.
expensive pants. Somebody will
It
always
would almost have
like,
to be school issued to make it so it's
yeah.
so standard that nobody can cheat the system. And
When I was younger, we had one uniform store that everybody went to in like a half hour proximity, and it was like the worst because we're like, oh, this is a uniform, and ours for 8 years it was green pants and like a mint green shirt and a
mm-hmm.
green tie. And I'm like, this is could blue like green, but it is what it is. I think. I mean, kids were still bullied back then, but
Yeah.
nobody was making fun of each other's clothes. At least,
Yeah,
it's just like,
I think I lean towards having them myself, even though as a kid at the time I probably wouldn't have wanted to do it. I don't think, and I get that side of it, your creativity and stuff. But I think the positives would outweigh the negatives there because, like you said, living through that age and knowing how, like, you know, I gotta watch. If my mom watches this, I don't want to give her a hard time, but they didn't make an F. They didn't focus on that stuff like the clothing. Like with our kids, not that I wanted to spoil them with that, but I always tried to make sure they had enough of that kind of stuff that they fit in and felt comfortable with what they were wearing. For us, it was like the basics. They didn't.
yeah, there were
It
no.
wasn't a priority. Like, well, let's try to find good deals on clothing and get you. I'm not saying they had to spend a ton of money, but they just didn't. It wasn't a priority to them. Like you were clothed, you're good,
Yeah,
and it was nothing compared to other kids, not even close.
I don't remember a lot of. I mean, there had to have been popular choices and fads when I was a teenager or younger. I don't remember like, oh, I have to have those. That's what everybody else. I know when the Jordans first came out, my parents were like, those are the ugliest sneakers. I'm not paying whatever it was,
And now they're worth
$80
big
when they could be
bucks.
10. Um, and the Coca-Cola brand
Oh
clothing was
yeah, that was
popular.
popular. I remember that.
Never owned it, but I was falling for that fad. But again, this was a time when in the 80s, everybody wanted the Michael Jackson red jacket. Everybody wanted to be like that Mike.
Pants with remember pants with zippers too.
Yep.
That kind of stuff.
So our fashion choices weren't the best.
Well,
And I think that's why I didn't really care if I looked the latest fad. I'm like, jeans and a shirt are fine.
one of the earliest fads I sort of remember was when the baggier clothing became popular, especially like under your armpit area. Like it had to be because some of them cuts were like it was really baggy right in here.
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't have that, like you felt out of place. Most clothing before that was more form fitting. And like all of a sudden, this fad was to have almost like these wings, flaps.
Loose fit.
Remember that was almost like a flap
Yeah.
in this area.
I
And
think
then
the more popular fast food became, we needed looser clothes.
and then the rolling up your pant legs, it was like
Oh,
making
yeah.
it tighter.
Yeah.
And you couldn't have much slack there at all. I mean, you wanted that like form to your ankle. And I don't know if you remember, sneakers were a big thing, but then there for a while it was more those like bass loafers.
Mm-hmm.
Our school, like it was almost amazing. Like you'd be lined up for something. Almost all the boys had like these bass loafers
Same
on,
things, yep.
or maybe different brands for some. But it was that
Yeah,
type of shoe. So that was a big. I remember one point, even in elementary school, hiking boots, at least our school, hiking boots were popular. I don't know how
I
far
don't remember the
reaching-
hiking, but yeah.
I don't know how far reaching that was. It was just our school, but it was hiking boots. A lot of the boys wore hiking. I don't know who started. Maybe it was just a local thing. I don't know. But it was hiking boots.
Seems
red laces.
uncomfortable for school.
So yeah. So I mean, those are fun things to look back on in a way and maybe laugh about or reminisce. But at the same time, it really you had to make an effort to keep up
Yeah.
because you wanted to fit in. You don't want to be the outcast. Like, well, you're the misfit.
Exactly.
So like you're saying, if you would have had a school dress code or issued uniform,
They could control it in some
yeah,
way.
you wouldn't have to worry about that. It'd be more based on your personality and getting along with people and not being judged. Well, you don't, you're wearing the same clothes all the time, and you're a loser.
Yeah. You wearing the same clothes and you can't tell because it's the uniform.
So there you go, Ethan and Gary. We came up with a better, actually,
Yeah.
Andrew, dude. We came up with a better, I think, dad debate.
Beats with the straw.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
we both voted one for the record, I think. One hole.
Yeah, I would vote one on that. I guess we'll have to finish with their last one. Is water wet? And I kind of thought, well, that's a dumb question. But Garrett says, well, some people say, no, water's what gets you wet or gets something wet.
This was one of the other ones that I was trying to go down the rabbit hole of Ethan's questions. And they said that water isn't wet. Water is the product that makes a
Makes
material
yeah,
wet. So with that, so,
because the material's not
I
wet,
mean,
but it's
am
wet
I
because of the
supposed
water,
to?
which is, in my opinion, wet.
Yeah,
I
it's the wetting agent. But I'm like,
well, can't it be both? I mean,
I would
I
think
get
it's
what they're,
both. Yeah,
I get what they're saying. Yes, it is the agent, but
that's more of a chicken and the egg thing. Like,
yeah,
is it wet before it touches you, or does it have to touch you before
yeah.
it's wet? So
I think
I
they're
don't.
overthinking this myself.
You went. They went for the debates.
All right, guess we'll move on to this draft.
Oh, the draft.
Best
This is
chain
what they were looking
restaurants.
forward to the most.
Yeah, this could be interesting, I guess. But I'm a very plain person, so I would have done it a little differently. That was chain because I thought of an answer here, but it's not a chain restaurant.
So the
So,
best chain restaurants for a Saturday night dinner with the family.
yep,
This could be fast food. It could be a fancier place, casual dining, I guess, but
it's
it
got to be a
has to be
chain restaurant.
has to be a
Though.
chain.
A chain. See, I wish it
So-
would have left the chain out.
And we each pick four,
Then
and then
we're supposed to do rock paper scissors.
rock paper scissors to determine who gets first pick.
All
So
right.
I guess it's just on, well, they're not going to have it on camera. So what?
One.
Rock paper scissors shoot on three.
Three
Rock
paper. I haven't done this in years. Rock paper scissors shoot. Oh, you
We
won.
got scissors beats paper for the
Paper.
record. I don't
He
know.
won.
All right. So
You get to go first.
the whole thing with the fast food confused me because technically you could dine in a McDonald's, but and I think if they're doing this draft like where they look up the answers to find the most popular, then I figure like a McDonald's would be the most popular because it's the most famous. But I'm gonna play by the rules, and if we have a Saturday night free, instead of going to McDonald's to eat, I'd rather go to a different restaurant. And finding a restaurant where everybody can agree and find
Good luck with
something.
that.
So I'll go with. There's a popular choice, but I'll go with. I'll do Olive Garden for a safe bet.
Oh yeah,
That's
that
my number
ranks
one
up
pick.
there. So you're going to win
So-
this whole thing because your choices will resonate with more people than mine.
Possibly, unless I go outside the box with some of them. I'll go for. We like Olive Garden, but I think it's also a popular choice. We'll
It
see.
is. It's definitely a popular choice.
My older son, was yelling out an answers when we first were talking about this. I'm like, I could add it, but I don't really like that restaurant. So I'm like, we'll see. Maybe I'll put it
Yeah.
as number 4 just to ensure I win this competition.
Yeah, you'll win. I'm not worried about winning. I just want to be honest and say how this what my preferences are. I would have went Shady Maple number 1,
Shady
but
Maple's
Shady Maple's
awesome.
not a chain.
Right.
But it's the biggest smorgasbord in the country, and we happen to live within 40 minutes of it or so.
Yeah.
Something like that, which will go occasionally. All you can eat.
Which reminds me, we haven't been in a while, so now that's going to be on.
yeah, on your
Making my
mind.
notes that we want to go to Shady Maple.
Yes, that would have
so-
been my number 1 because I was thinking about this on my way home once we knew we were going to do this day. I thought Shady Maple, but I didn't realize it was a chain restaurant, so that's out the window. Mine, because it's the
honorable
family.
mention to Shady Maple.
Yeah, definitely. My first pick it would be Applebee's, and years ago I never would have said that because I like steak, and their steak always seemed to be like this, just mush and gray when they cooked it. So I was always disappointed. But we tried it again a few years ago. I guess it is already probably. And they have a lot of good deals. I like their steak. Most times it comes out pretty tasty. I'm a pretty plain person. I like the steak. They normally have decent pricing. We're with the family. I don't want to spend a ton of money. I'm pretty frugal. I might want to blow money. So they have a lot of these 2 for 25, 2 for 30 deals. You get an appetizer. So you're not breaking the bank. I mean, it still costs you something, but it could be much, much, much worse. There's one right by us, less than a mile away.
Yep.
So to me,
Convenient.
it's that'd be something I would enjoy, and I don't feel bad I'm spending too much money. So that would be. And again, if you asked me a few years ago, I would have said no way because I didn't like their food. But if I have one meal there I like, I'm good. I like the steak.
Yeah, they have a really good deal. I usually get the the pasta dish, or the burgers, because they have like 20 different burgers. It's one place where almost everybody in the family can pick something.
Right.
And
You
when
can
we're
find
struggling to
something.
find something to eat, they're like, just get Applebee's. Like, do the two for 20, two for, like, get an
Right.
appetizer with it, and
There's enough variety
everybody
there.
will eat something. Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be my go-to.
And then the second pick along the same lines, not as good of a deal, but another one that's like, okay, where are we gonna go? We don't want to drive too far. We want something where everybody eats is Red Robin,
Okay.
and mainly because the bottomless fries, the steak
Oh
fries are
yeah.
phenomenal, uh, and they're bottomless. So even though lately, um, Red Robin people, you do not bring the fry refills out in an appropriate manner. We're almost done the meal, and then it's the first wave of refills. So that value is not there. But that's one of them where everybody can find something. So we'll take Red Robin.
Well, I got a tip on the Red Robin. We used to go there a lot, but now with prices increasing like everywhere, so I guess I can't get too critical of them. Their prices shot up too, so we don't go as much as we used to.
Yeah.
We used mainly me and Kim. The boys aren't as big on it, but we would go probably once, twice a month, maybe. I don't know. Now we don't do that because the prices shot up. And it's like it's a burger, you know. I want to pay a ton of money for a burger because it used to be like $7 for what I got. It was like seven. Now it's up like I think 12 or 13 for the
Yeah,
same.
we noticed that with
It's nuts.
EFAM too. We went out, my wife and I, and I thought they made a mistake on the bill. And they're like, no, that's just prices are going up. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, it was considerably higher for what we always get.
All right.
I'm like,
But my tip for there is one waitress proposed this to us, so every time we go, I do this now. She took our order. She says, "Would you like fries ahead of time?" I know they're bottom. She goes, "Do you want your fries now?" I can
started.
do that. Yeah. So every time I tell different people, and no one seems to know this, but I have no waitress or waiter has ever said no to me. They always do it.
Nice.
I say, "Can I have fries ahead?" Yeah, sure, because they're bottomless anyway. So I'll get fries while I'm waiting. So at least if I'm hungry, the only bad part is sometimes it kind of can ruin your meal a little bit because I eat all these fries and now my burger comes and I'm kind of I'm semi full already. But I do that every
Oh, I'll
time.
make sure that's not an issue.
But I hear you in the Red Robin. We do enjoy that too. But the pricing is what kind of so that wouldn't have been up on my list. Well, it might have been later on my list. But all right, for me next for us would probably be Outback Steakhouse because while they're a little pricier than like these other places we're mentioning, I don't think it's too out of hand yet. And sometimes they do have some specials. I like their steak too for the most part. And what I do with my steak, I use what they put on the fries. I get my fry. I just want salt in my fries,
Right.
but the fry seasoning.
Oh, they have the special
Yeah,
seasoning.
I use that on my steak though,
Mm.
because it's salt, pepper, and garlic, a blend.
Oh,
Because Kim and actually me for a while too. We worked at Fridays. She was a manager there, and they put that on their steak, so that got me. And I
get
just
the
love
flavor.
that.
So now you know that taste
So I like that
combination.
on my steak. So if I go there, they have that fry seasoning. So does Applebee's, by the way. They have it too.
So you just tell them to
I
add
tell them
that.
I want that seasoning on the side for my steak, but not on the fries. I want salt for my fries.
Right.
So that's what I do.
That's a good way to do it.
So it's a win-win at both those places for that they have the seasoning I like, and it's a steakhouse. So I like steak. If you probably
I
can
might
tell.
predict your third and fourth choices then, based on.
They're up. I'm not sure if I have all that. I have to think a little deeper.
We'll stay in the. We're doing a lot of the pizza places are great. I don't know with the franchisee and how they describe this as a chain. Some of these might just be Exeter based, so I'm gonna have to stay away from most of those. And I already did the Olive Garden, but we'll go. I'll stay on the steak theme a little bit with Texas Roadhouse. Um, most of the people in the family don't eat steak except Ethan, but it's one place where somebody will try it, or my oldest will get salmon because he doesn't trust me to cook the salmon. So they like the rolls. Um, it's a cheap answer, but
Yeah.
Texas
Yeah, I've
Roadhouse
eaten that.
for what it is.
I've eaten there, but it's been a while, quite a few years actually, because we just typically do. If we go to steakhouse, we do Outback.
The wait is always pretty long there. That's the downside.
Yeah, that's a downside when you get into some of these places too, which like the Applebee's
Especially
isn't
when they
typically
put
too
a
bad.
Saturday night for dinner could be the key problem here because all of those places, especially once you get into that why I'm missing area, you're going to be waiting forever.
I think my next choice now I'm going more for the probably for like what people would vote for, I guess, because this is draft. The other ones were my choices. This one won't be mine as much personally, but as for the family, they would probably like it as Red Lobster. But I'm not overly personally a big fan of Red Lobster. I'd sooner go to Shady Maple on a Tuesday for seafood night,
Yeah,
all you can eat. But
you'll
that's
get
not an option in this draft.
yeah you'll get better deals
Better
there.
deal.
Lisa was craving Red Lobster, and I don't think we'd been in years, so we went there a
Same
couple
here.
months ago, and it wasn't bad, but it wasn't
It's overpriced, probably
for
what you
what
get.
the value for what you get. It was really overpriced, and I guess I mean you talk about burgers at Red Robin going up, and they're really going crazy with seafood. They're like, oh, I can charge way more for this now.
Yeah,
So
everything else is going up.
things that used to be really cheap and inexpensive, but I mean, it was enjoyable, but it was not something I had to crave because everything is. I want to taste the seafood, but it's all slathered in butter, or
A lot of
they're
pasta with it, right?
yeah,
Typically, most of the dishes
because that way you could keep from eating the seafood. Throw some pasta.
they
On
can
this
fill you
and
up with the
that.
cheapest pasta.
Yeah,
Cheap, well, at least it used to be. Everything's going up, but pasta is the cheaper end of the equation.
that's what I did
So
when I worked there, and they used to have the all-you-can-eat specials. I'd always recommend the pasta dish with whatever protein it was or meat because they would fill up faster. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to bring loads and loads of fried shrimp or loads and loads of peeled shrimp. But
right,
I'm like, don't you? I'm like, your best value is the pasta and shrimp. It's delicious. I can't believe you're getting all you can eat. Like one and a half bowls and they'd be out.
well,
Except for the toast.
they used to have a lobster fest too. I don't know if they
Yeah.
still have that, but they used to
I'm
do
trying
more
to remember if
promotions,
they
I think,
did
years
that.
ago.
They're hardly ever on TV. I don't see them advertised.
Not like they used to.
Yeah. Olive Garden I'll see. Applebee's I'll see. Chili's is always on baby back ribs.
Yeah, I want my baby
But
back.
I don't see Red Lobster a lot on there.
I think
But-
your recording just came on off on this phone.
Oh, did his thing die?
Well, it says low battery yet. I saw low battery, then I saw a blank screen. Well, we're getting near the end at least.
Oh, his is dead. Oh, we'll just go to one screen then. I'm not going to worry about charging.
I can't
it.
believe we killed that battery.
Yeah, I'm not going to worry about charging his screen. Yeah, because this is on 45
Well,
minutes, so we've already...
have to rotate it once in a while, right?
Well, we only got one question. The last picks, right?
The last
You get,
picks. I did
all right, you did
Red Lobster, so it's back to you for the
Um,
last pick, right?
Well, this will be my cheat. The kids like it more than I do. I think it's overpriced. I think the portions are too much. The portions are too large, but in terms of a crowd pleaser, it's a Cheesecake Factory. I mean, it's massive. And I don't think it's that great for what you get, but if I'm doing my top four, I'll go with Cheesecake Factory for the popularity contest
Cheesecake.
part of it.
You haven't heard that one mentioned in a while.
That'll round out my.
Okay. I guess my last one would be, and I mentioned this earlier a little bit, but it wasn't higher on my list. It would have been, but simply because it's not around here anymore, and that's TGI Fridays. Like I said, Kim was a manager there. I served tables there for a while, like part-time years ago. But they used to have pretty good food. We
I
enjoyed
used to like the one at the Coventry Mall.
Yeah, that's where Kim worked.
Yeah,
We both
that's
worked,
cool.
actually,
Yeah.
for a while.
We went there a couple years ago. I remember one of the kids lost their phone and was getting yelled at. But the parent in choice, and I won't name any names, but the parent in choice who was yelling at the children for losing their phone, misplacing their phone, discovered they lost their credit card at the restaurant as well. So it was karmic, ironic justice there for a little bit. But no, it was. I always liked the food there. When I was working in restaurants, they were open later than the other one. So after we were done, we'd always go to Fridays and get the appetizers. And I liked the, I think it was the Jack Daniel sauce that they used to put on all the
Right.
appetizers.
Yeah, they had that sauce. Yep.
So I used to always like that. It's hard to find.
Yeah. So many of these restaurants are closing. They're just not around anymore.
Yeah.
COVID didn't help for sure, but I think the problem with Fridays, a lot of them were in malls, and malls are like a dinosaur anymore. So that didn't help when you build your brand around something that's dying. Like
that's a.
So I'm assuming that's because I mean the food was pretty good. And they used to have decent pricing, I think. Of course, but that's before everything jumped up like it has. You could get some decent values there. We like their food. So I guess that wraps up our restaurants, and they'll be able to put all this together.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see where these end up. What website they're using to determine the top choices.
All right,
that's it. We have to close with the best dad jokes.
Share the best dad jokes you know. 1 to 3 jokes.
I tested one out, and it went over like a lead balloon. But I'm going to use that same joke, and then I'll do a second one. So we'll see if you're more appreciative than the kids were. So you want to go first, or
only ones I know are like real short ones. They're not jokes that.
They're short. Yeah.
Okay.
The long were the jokes I have that are long.
I guess I should put this on. Yeah, you want just that to me, then I'll put it back to you at the end.
The long jokes that I have are not appropriate for the podcast. The short and sweet ones are.
I guess I looked a few up. There was one I have growing up that we said a lot. I think it could also be a dad joke, I guess, but I'll save that one in the end because that I'll remember. These others I have to say before I forget them. I'm not big on writing stuff down. I should be, but I'm really not. I told these both to Gary. He thought they were kind of lame, I think. The first one he said he heard, and that is, what did the ocean say to the beach?
What?
Did you ever hear that one? Nothing. It just waved.
Okay.
I guess that qualifies as a dad joke.
Yeah, that
lame.
Fits right in there. Yeah, it has to be a little punny. It has to be short and sweet. Like I thought that was the definition of what they're looking for here.
And then what was
But they wouldn't laugh at anything we'd say anyway. I'd groan.
What do you call an intelligent? Well, how was this one now? I'm already getting it wrong, I think. Oh, what do you call a fish that wears a bow tie? Sophisticated. So
there you go with the punny.
Yeah, those are 2 I looked up. And this other one, we used to say a lot as kids. I don't know where we got it from, but we would just say this a lot of different times. And then we would say it, and the other one gave the answer. I don't know why. Almost like a knock-knock joke, but it's not a knock-knock joke. But some reason we grew up with this, and we say it a lot. And it is, what did the mayonnaise say to the refrigerator?
What?
One would say that, and then the other one would say, close the door. Don't you know? Close the door. Don't you know I'm dressing? So that always stuck with me. Then one of us would say it, the other one would give the answer a lot of times. I don't know.
So it worked in tandem.
Yeah. We would say it, and we knew the answer. So what the point of doing this all the time was? But we would do that quite a bit.
Yeah.
It felt that way to me. For a certain time period, we did that.
Whatever works, right?
So those, I guess, it kind of qualifies as a dad joke too, even though we weren't dads when we were doing it.
It still counts.
So I guess you're up, Andrew. Turn this. We're down to one phone for the camera, so that's why we're flipping back and forth.
So, okay, what do you call a Frenchman wearing sandals?
Frenchman wearing sandals. You got me.
Philippe Flop.
That's pretty good. Huh?
See, that's the one the kids hate. I thought that was brilliant.
I think that's pretty good.
I literally laughed when I read that.
That's pretty good, I think.
It was not one of my own originals.
I wouldn't have guessed that, because sometimes you get the end, you're like, oh, I should have guessed that.
Yeah, you're trying to figure out.
And that one I never would have guessed, but yet it's good.
Yeah, there was one, I think it was Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg, where it's a video of them telling dad jokes over and over again. I was laughing at some of them and looking for inspiration there, but I didn't see any or hear any that I like. And then the last one that I thought was clever was talking about how I hate my job. I just crush Coke cans all day. It's so depressing.
Yeah, that's definitely a dad joke.
Exactly. That fits the criteria, so that's where we got to go.
Do you have
We got through their list.
you didn't have a third one? You used to have two because I did.
Oh
three.
no, I didn't. I didn't find the third.
Okay, that's fine.
I won't compete with mayonnaise refrigerator or Philippe flop.
I think as I was thinking about it, I think what we got out of that was like we like to do that. We kind of like to say, close the door. Don't you know I'm dressing? And like, and we kind of hit her. You know, we sort of like
acted out.
I think that's what it was. Now more I'm thinking about it, we thought it was this whole
The
fun
presentation part.
Yeah, it was funny. It made us chuckle as kids. Guess we were easily amused, evidently.
Because we didn't have much to do when we were 17 on a Friday night. So.
Well, I don't think I was quite 17 when we were telling that joke, but it was a younger age. But still, it's stuck with me all these years. And plus, I think I imagine in my head like this jar of mayonnaise, talking to the refrigerator and afraid
Covering
close the
up
door
because it's naked.
Yeah. All right. With that, I guess it says outro. I've heard of outro. It makes sense though. Intro, outro. I guess. Say goodbye.
They're doing it so seriously and professionally.
Yeah.
Well, it was fun. It was a pleasure. It's always a good excuse to get together with you. Even though it was under like hostage circumstances with this podcast. And if we get more likes and comments than they do, we'll do it again. And we'll have a spin-off and compete and get all the merchandising and sponsorship rights or something like that. But I have a feeling their fans are going to turn us off way past where we started.
Probably. I think our episodes...
But it was fun.
Our episodes probably... Guess what turn me on? I'll say my list. Is that lined up?
They have a lot of editing to do. Yep.
Yep, a lot. Well, it was fun. The last time we got together, as I recall, was helping out at that... was that technically... Is it what's that
Oh,
called?
yeah, at the shelter.
House.
Yeah.
Opportunity House.
Yep.
Where we served tacos. What else did we serve? Do you remember? It was mainly tacos.
Yeah, it was mainly the tacos and the
So we got together. People that Ethan worked with were there. Some of their friend group.
Yeah, it was a little
other people that you know.
A little baseball/friend reunion.
Yeah, and some co-workers from Ethan.
Yeah, it was
that
pretty
sort
cool.
Of thing. So that's the last time we really got together and hung out, and it was for a good cause. This is more just for fun.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that
it's
was
a blast.
January, so it was a while.
January already. Wow.
Yeah.
We're in June, so it's already half.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a subject for another podcast. I was thinking about the concept of time, how these kids don't. As you get older, I think you start getting a better grasp of it.
Yeah, definitely.
And an understanding of, where you just that comes with experience and as you age.
Absolutely.
They don't have that yet because they are so young. But
yeah, it's a lot easier back when they're younger.
And it does.
Not putting it in perspective is now, like, again, 6 months have gone by in a blink.
It's almost depressing.
Yeah.
How quickly life goes by.
Yep.
Because, I'm 50. My dad was a minister. He married me and Kim. He did the ceremony. He was 49. And I'm 50 now. I got married when I was 22.
Older than the point where you're...
Doesn't. Yeah. In one sense, yeah, it seems a while ago. In another sense, it doesn't. So it's like, it's just mind-blowing. The concept of time, and that's why I was like, you're into sci-fi and horror. You're like sci-fi and horror.
Yeah.
I always like the time travel type movie concept, like Back to the Future, and there's other ones out there, but it's just so much to that. It's so interesting to think about. What if this? What if that? And that's like, I guess we want to wrap
butterfly
this up.
effects. And
we want to wrap this up.
I
guess, but the thing is, just like you said, the internet. I think about that sometimes. When I met Kim. It was just organically, like, we both worked at the same place, which Garrett says, well, that's kind of a boring way to meet. But a lot of people meet that way, school or work. But I would overthink it. Like, you met your wife through the internet. That all worked out. That was great. But I would overthink it, like, am I tempting fate by doing this? Should I not be doing this because I'm just going to meet someone organically? And here I'm, like, forcing it before I would just be
and then you have the dating apps. And
I would just be a mess not knowing. And that wasn't an option back then.
Yeah.
Might technically exist. I remember that kind of first went out, and initially, most people weren't big on that. Like
the closest would be like a blind date that you're.
Yeah,
set
I had
up
one of those
with
already.
Friends, your friends were your dating apps. They'd be like, "Oh, I work with this person.
Yeah,
or, I know this person, or the friend of a friend."
But now it's much more widely accepted, and I probably, if I was single, maybe I would go down that road. I don't know, but initially that kind of in its very very infant stages, most people weren't real keen on that. I don't think.
Mm-mm.
It had more of a negative vibe to it, don't you think?
Yeah.
It was called computer dating, wasn't it?
Yep. Yep.
Now it's like almost like promoted and it's like celebrated to
I
a
think it
degree.
comes down with the phones too and the accessibility.
Yeah, it's just a different
You
world.
always have
so.
it on you, so it's like
Right.
and the rules of the workplace and
isn't that
everything.
one called?
Like,
What's that one called? No, it's not Tinder. What's that one called? They just flip through. It's like almost like a speed dating thing they do.
that's Tinder.
Is
I
that
think.
called
Yeah.
Tinder?
Yeah.
So it's just a different world. But I would struggle with that. Like, should I do this? Shouldn't I do it? Am I just going to meet someone?
But nowadays, if you compliment somebody on work too, you probably have a HR person
yeah, right.
take you into the
Well,
office.
where I work now, there's only 3 of us. So and it's all guys. So if it was, and I'm not a real social guy, so I probably would be if I was single now, maybe looking that route.
Right.
That route because what other choice would I
It's
have?
the options that are available to you.
Right. So, all right, we got kind of added a segment there, but
We gave him enough
we
material.
gave you plenty of material.
There you go, boys. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks. Peace out.
Peace.